welcome back and let's continue the topic power sharing. As I said, we have to find out why we should have power sharing. Simply your textbooks also says the same thing. Why power sharing is desirable. Two reasons, but they had an explanation. One is prudential, the other one is moral. Let me explain you the first reason. Prudential means very calculative. You actually think what are the gains and the losses. अगर एक एग्जाम्पल दूं तो आप सोचिए कि अगर आप अच्छा पढ़ोगे तो क्या होगा. अच्छा पढ़ोगे तो अच्छा रिजल्ट आएगा, अच्छा रिजल्ट आएगा तो अच्छे कॉलेज में एडमिशन मिलेगा, अच्छी डिग्री मिलेगी, अच्छा जॉब मिलेगा. कितना सिंपल सा कैलकुलेशन है और अच्छा भी है. इसे उल्टा करते हैं. अगर आप अच्छा नहीं पढ़ते हो, अच्छे नंबर नहीं आएंगे, अच्छी कॉलेज नहीं मिलेगी, डिग्री उतनी हैवी नहीं होगी और शायद उस हिसाब का जॉब भी नहीं होगा. इसे बोलते हैं प्रूडेंस, कैलकुलेट करना गेन्स एंड लॉसेस. सो पावर शेयरिंग इज गुड बिकॉज इट reduces the possibility of conflict. And when there is no conflict, don't you think there is a peace in the country? When there is peace in the country, the government is stable. When the government is stable, it's progressive. सारी चीजें sequential और अच्छी हैं. And how do we do power sharing? In India, we can have an example of reservation of seats. We reserve seats for weaker section of society. ये prudence है, calculated है कि इससे उन्हें क्या अच्छा होगा, उनका भला कैसे होगा. Let's move to the other part, the other reason, moral power sharing. It's a spirit of democracy. When I say spirit, अंतरात्मा. Very simple thing बेटा. Power sharing करना है और वो बोल रहे हैं कि ये स्पिरिट है डेमोक्रेसी का. अगर मैं आपको एक वर्ड पूछूं कि डेमोक्रेसी को एक ही वर्ड में डिफाइन करो, आई थिंक द फर्स्ट वर्ड स्ट्राइक्स टू यू एंड विच एक्चुअली जस्टिफाइज डेमोक्रेसी इज इक्वालिटी. और बेटा इक्वालिटी दो लोगों के बीच होती है. जब तक पावर शेयर नहीं करोगे इक्वालिटी नहीं होगी. दिस इज मोरल रीजन ऑफ पावर शेयरिंग. डोंट यू थिंक इन इंडिया आवर रोल एज अ सिटीजन इज ओनली रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टिल वोटिंग. आप वोट कर देते हो, उसके बाद फिर आप वेट करते हो कि अगला वोट कब करना है. इज देयर एनी मोर पार्टिसिपेशन यू आर हैविंग इन द गवर्नमेंट? नो, यू डोंट. सो दैट्स व्हाट दे आर सेइंग. अ legitimate government is where the citizens actually participate little more than just casting the vote. In our country, we can have an example of decentralization of power. So remember these two very important reasons why power sharing is desirable. Now let's move to our country. बार बार मैं कह रहा हूं कि हमारे कंट्री में ऐसा, हमारे कंट्री में वैसा. तो चलिए देखते हैं कि हमारे कंट्री में पावर शेयरिंग कैसे की जाती है. फर्स्ट थिंग इज व्हाट वी नीड टू लर्न, हाउ वी शेयर पावर अमंग डिफरेंट ऑर्गन्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. लेट्स टेक अप द क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम देयर. सो हाउ मेनी ऑर्गन्स आर देयर? देयर आर 3 ऑर्गन्स. Name them. You have legislature, you have executive, you have judiciary. Think. Who makes law, who executes law, and who checks that the laws are made as per the constitution? It's in the name. They have equal power, they have different power, and remember, they all have limited power. एक एग्जाम्पल देता हूं. ये लॉ बनाते हैं, ये लॉ एग्जीक्यूट करते हैं, ये चेक करते हैं कि ये लॉ एज पर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है कि नहीं. तो आपको नहीं लगता है तीनों के पास बराबरी के पावर हैं, तीनों के पास इक्वल पावर हैं, पर अलग पावर हैं. एक सिंपल सा चीज जस्टिफाई करने के लिए, चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया इज अपॉइंटेड बाय द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया, बट he is not answerable to president. इक्वल बराबरी की बात आ गई. और चीफ जस्टिस इन इंडिया प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया को निकाल सकते हैं, सेम प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया को निकाल सकते हैं. फिर से वही बात, बराबरी की बात आ गई और पावर बैलेंस भी हो गए. एंड दैट्स व्हाई दे आल्सो कॉल दिस अरेंजमेंट एज check and balance. Now let's see what's the other form of power sharing we have. Power sharing among different levels of government. First we'll go to the topic levels. Whenever there is a level, It's hierarchy. मतलब कोई ऊपर होगा, कोई नीचे होगा. In our country, we have governments at different levels. You have union government for the whole country, then you have state government for that region. Within the state, you have Zila Parishad, जिसे आप district government भी कहते हैं. Then you have Panchayat Samiti, इसे आप block कहते हो, मंडल कहते हो. And then finally, at the lowest level, we have got Gram Panchayat, मतलब village Panchayat. Now, don't you think they are actually coming from top to bottom? The powers are shared from top to bottom, and that's why it is vertical form of power sharing. Also, this form of power sharing is known as federal form of power sharing. Let's move to the next section. Power shared among different social group, linguistic group, and religious groups. Think within this chapter, we did something which was related to community. Yes, community government in Belgium. Do we have any such kind of government in India? So in India, we have reservation of seats. Reservation of seats for women and SC and ST. Why do we have reservation of seats? We have already done that. We reserve seats so that it is easy to administrate and this group should not be left behind. Let's move to the last part and see which section is there for the power sharing left. Obviously, political party, pressure groups, and movement groups. You have a chapter, unfortunately, that got omitted, and that is where you have definition of all three. But let me tell you what the definition is. Political parties. People with similar ideology related to social and political issues come together and they form organization. Why do they form organization? To come in power. This is political party. Now, what are pressure groups and movement groups? Remember, they do not contest election and they do not want to come in power. What they do, they simply put pressure on the elected government. Now this is the definition. Now let's see how power is shared. You might have heard about coalition government or alliance. Simple. Two or more parties come together and form government. बेटा जब मैं बोल ही रहा हूं कि दो पार्टी एक साथ आ रही हैं और गवर्नमेंट बना रही हैं, बट ऑब्वियस कुछ तो शेयरिंग है ना, कुछ मुझे मिलेगा, कुछ उन्हें मिलेगा. That's what coalition government is, and this is what the power shared among political parties. Now, how about pressure groups and movement groups? These pressure groups and movement groups, they put pressure on the government related to certain issues. मैं example देता हूँ आपको. Worker union, traders union, industrialist union, doctors unions, they do not contest election, but whenever they wish to have an issue raised, they come together and put pressure on the government and get their demands fulfilled. And yes, governments do listen to them, and that's how government is sharing power with this section of society. And this is what your chapter was, power sharing. I wish you good luck, keep revising and keep smiling.